Alrighty guys, so today's video we're going to be working on a Polaris Indy Trail touring 2-up with the 488 fan cooled. We picked this thing up recently. There's going to be some bird noise in the background. They're hiding back there. What we have to do is basically confirm it's got spark. We already confirmed it has compression, even though they had the plugs out of this engine. It had 125 each side, so that's good. It's got like 5,000 miles or 6,000 miles on it. Nothing too crazy. So what we're gonna do is find some spark plugs for it, probably some BR9 ESs, and then go through the fuel system once we heard it run on spray, basically is what we're gonna do. So probably have to do the pickup line in the tank and you know, remove the airbox, go through the carburetors, do fuel lines if they're looking scuzzy. It does have electric start and reverse, so that's good. We'll see if the electric start works later on in the video. But lighting's gonna be a little bit poor today, guys, just because I'm in the shop and the door is closed, so have to bear with me on that. It'll be, hopefully, I'll do the best I can to get you some clarity on what we're doing, but gonna dive right into it, find some spark plugs. Probably just gonna put a used set of plugs in right now. I don't have anything new for BR9s, so unless I find some, I'll throw them in. We'll see if the thing's got some spark. It does indeed have spark. Maybe you'll be able to see it. Has real good spark. Put a new set of plugs in actually. So, found a new set of BR9 ESs. I'm gonna go get a little bit of mixed fuel and make sure this thing does indeed pop off, and then we'll keep going from there. Always protect your cans with a can koozie. I have a plug wrench handy. Let's see if that stuff evaporated or not. Man, is that some tight snacking on boots there. Wow. All right, let's see if she'll fire. Sweet. You guys heard it run. So let's dive into the fuel system and start checking everything over, making sure we got pickup line in the tank. That's good. The lines. And obviously might as well go through the carburetors, make sure we're good there. So I will do that next, starting with the belt cover, get that off. I think the side panels come off too, if we wanted to get that far with it. Take that, lift the clutch card up. Belt is a little bit worn, nothing crazy. Next step's gonna be loosening, well, there's one missing for the fuel pump, but I'll take this one out. We'll probably just put a self-tapper or something in there. Looks like the rubber grommets are kind of popping out of there. So we'll take the fuel pump so it's loose. Pop this clip retainer out for the throttle cables and the choke cables. And there's a screw by the secondary clutch, and then there's usually a little bolt by your fuel shutoff, and then the airbox should be able to slide out. A little bit of wrestling around usually it takes, but nothing too crazy. Get that out, then we can actually see in there and start working on the fuel system. So here was the pickup line fitting for the fuel tank. Basically, this is what it looked like when I pulled it out. There was just a little bit of broken fuel line on this side with one of those clamps on it, those factory crimped on clamps. So the pickup line was obviously broken in the tank. Right now I'm pumping out some of the old gas. I was gonna show you the color of it. It's kind of green looking. I'm gonna pump most of it out, and then I'll try to reach in there and see if there's any debris from the broken fuel line that I can snag out, and then hopefully I can find the little filter weight that sits on the end of the line in the tank somewhere. We'll run a new line, put that back on, and then we should be back in business. The fuel smells, you know, it's definitely not great, but gotta pump most of it out of there. There's a small mice nest, it looks like, up by the, kind of in behind the oil tank back in there by the tank and steering column. So I'm going to have to clean that out. You can see I got the airbox off and pulled obviously the pickup line and the main fuel line off. So that's where we're at. I'm gonna keep pumping that old gas. I'll let you know if I find the screen filter. I'll show you what's inside the tank for that new line. Maybe you guys can see. Kind of shine my light if it'll focus. So that's our new clear line. You can see just a little bit of residual gas in the tank yet. I did pump 95% of it out. Got all that crap out of there. And like I said, remove the broken line. We got our, get my flashlight here. We got our line hooked back up with the fitting coming out of the tank. That's where your line comes in. I did blow through the line before I reconnected it, took it off the pump, made sure no bad gas was sitting in that line. So anytime now when we put new gas in, it'll be fresh to that point. Next, we got to pull the fuel lines off the carbs. You can tell the carbs are kind of scuzzy. The intake boots, I was inspecting them. They look good. They don't look dry rotted too badly. Chokes move. So now it's just removing the choke cables themselves, which are really rusty, oh boy. But gotta get that removed, remove the slide caps and the fuel lines and get those carbs cleaned and reinstalled. And I think this thing will run today. So fingers crossed that everything in the carb looks okay and it's cleanable. And then we'll put it back together and see if it runs. So stay tuned. I'm gonna try to record some of the carburetor stuff when I get to that point. But it's hard with one guy just to set the camera up, do it, get a good angle for you. So I'll try my best, but we'll keep moving through with this project. Got, like I said, the main fuel system in the tank done. That should be promising there. It should pull fuel in. And that's probably why this thing quit running in the first place, and then it just sat. Start with the one carb. You can get these old screws out. Nothing too tight and crazy here, so that's good. I always put a rag down, especially on a shiny top like that, so it doesn't bounce if stuff falls out. It doesn't have to be a rag like this, but you know, any cloth rag or paper towel or something. Just helps stuff if it does hit the surface, it doesn't bounce as bad. And you can usually see it stand out on something instead of your bench top or whatever. Or food trays work good. The old fashioned. Whack-a-mole. Oh, it doesn't look too bad. It smells a little rowdy, but looking at my hose here, looks good. Doesn't look cracked or anything. Floats are moving. Get all that old gas out. And the float is, the needle is moving, so that's even better. Float height itself looks about right. So that's good. Spring is moving. Well, I'll be damned, guys. Let's get some tools to get the jets out. Do a nice thorough cleaning on these. Things are looking promising. We'll pop our main jet out. Hardest part will probably be cleaning the bowl, actually. So we got our brass washer. It's got, I'm assuming something pretty small for a jet, like in the 200s. But. Yeah, 230 it looks like. Not very scuzzy or anything, so. What I can do sometimes, I can put the jet back in it. And then I want to pound the tube out of the carb without damaging it too much. Other times I can try to get something round and flat to tap that on out of there. There she goes. Just about out. The rest of the way I can probably take my Phillips like that. It's not going to hurt anything. And just remove your main jet. And this is, like I said, your tube. It's a P8. So making sure we go through that, cleaning that out thoroughly. And we'll get the pilot jet out quick. Jet falls out. Pilot jet is a 40, it looks like. Looks pretty dirty. So those are out. We'll just got to take our air screw out. You can see my Sharpies are already wanting to wash off because of gas. That's why I scratch P, or a PTO side, basically into carb. You check where our air screw is at. Half, one turn's about right. Take that out quick. Maybe we can reset it to 1 turn when we reassemble. There's going to be a spring underneath there, guys. Just wiggle that out. Idle screw is not seized, so that's good. We won't touch that until we have to synchronize if needed. Now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to spray this off externally first. Use compressed air, then I'll work on the internals. And then the float bowl will be last. So that is what doing one of these carburetors is like. You can see the float height straight across with the gasket surface. That's about where you want it. And like I said, these are pretty standard for most Mikunis on Polaris sleds. I'll show you how I put these tubes in. A little bit of dryness on here yet. I always carry a little bottle of mixed gas and I coat some of the parts in that when I go back together. Especially I put some down the intake, or I guess the fuel inlet for the float. Make sure that's well lubricated with gas. Sometimes you can get flooding if it's dry or brand new. Sometimes they don't seal properly. That's why I always wet the float needles before reassembly. Putting the tube back in, I take a pencil, I hold from the bottom. The opening always faces the intake side, so that's how you know you can slide it in. You can't really mess it up unless you would drive that alignment pin right out of there. So we got our tube in, our sealing washer, and our main jet, which was a 230. Everything's clean for the most part. Take my little tightener up. Nice and clean. The pilot's in there. Everything else has been thoroughly cleaned. Here's the bowl. I always make sure, put a little bit of gas. I cleaned out, always clean out the hoses, guys, on these indies. They always have a tube on the bottom. Don't just clean the bowl out. Pull that tube, pull that clamp or whatever, pull that off. There's usually something in there, debris, old gas. You know, always pull this hose off, clean it out real good, spray through it, and then scrape out in the bottom of the bowl really well, making sure everything's good and make sure your floats are real nice and free. So they should drop down real easy like that. The bowl is clean. Everything inside the carb is good. Just double check my pilot jet here. Yep, good there. Float bowl can go back on, and our 4 screws. Air screw is back in already. Got that all squared away at 1 turn. Throw our bowl screws back in. These all tightened up. Looks good. Give them one final snug turn on there. Doesn't have to be too crazy tight, just tight, snug. Always make sure you can blow through your vent line. Very important there. You never want these vent lines to be restricted or frozen with ice. We've had that before. Always make sure these vent lines, these actually attach to the airbox. Some older ones actually went up to the steering column under your bar pad. Make sure these are always free from obstruction and ice if they would freeze. That'll make your engine run really, really rich and give you all kinds of fits. Alrighty guys, carbs are back installed on the machine. throttle pull is way better, guys. I'm gonna see if I can get you down here and do a carb sync look at it. If I can get you in there. I don't know if it'll let me. I'll try to. I don't think you can see both slides. Try to leave my light kind of right there. Can you see the other one or not? So you see how those slides are twitching? I did feel them by just my fingers being in there, and they're pulling at the exact same time. That one's, like I said, it's just tough for me to see in there with the camera. But basically that's what we were checking on carb synchronization. All checks out good. Carbs are tightened back up, fuel lines are on. I'm leaving the airbox out for the time being. Gonna go get some fresh fuel, make sure there's oil in the oil injection bottle, and then we'll see if this thing starts up. So fingers crossed, guys. I'm pretty confident it will run now that we got the carburetors and fuel system cleaned out and redone. So I'm also curious if the electric start works. We'll get a jump pack and try that. I'll be back momentarily. We'll get some fuel in it, a couple gallons of gas, and pull the rope, see what happens. About 3 gallons of gas in it, I'd say. Like I said, pressurized it. We'll try to just use the choke, and we'll see if it'll fire up on its own. It's got oil in the bottle, so.
You can't even stage that, man.
Didn't even, like I said, that was the first time ever starting it, literally. Huh. So evidently the carbs are good and the fuel system works. And the lights worked, and then even the indicators on here were lit up, but I didn't see, it's almost like this half of the tail light was out, just this half was on. But that's...
All right, well, let's pull it outside.
Yeah, get it outside so it doesn't smoke out the entire shop.
So we have to work in here.
And then I'll re-put it on a stand over here, and we'll clear it out.
All right.
What does it say, 0.4 volts? Oh, the charging system's gonna be running a marathon trying to charge it. Battery from our testing is stone dead. I would not leave the meter there, but I think we should check it for charging when it's running. We'll get her going, guys. Might have to check the electrolyte level in the battery. That's one of them where you have to actually, fill them with electrolyte, and then we can maybe charge it for a whole day and see if it'll come back to life. Otherwise, the worst comes to worst, put a $50 battery in it. It's probably worth it. We can test it with a jump pack, make sure it works. Let's see if she'll fire back up and if the heated warmers and all that stuff work. That helps by turning
Look at that smoke. Good 4-stroke.
right, guys, we're attempting to get the electric starter hooked up. Well, a jump pack. I think that'll be all right. We'll see if the connection's loose or not. All right, guys, ready?